the three ratios in general, but again, we're going to focus on the tangent ratio to stick with one when we first learn these calculator functions. Okay, so if you have your calculator in front of you, we're going to figure out how we can use them. Remember that from what we just looked at, when you have, we'll go back to this one last time here. If I go back to this and I have an angle in there, let's make it a little smaller first so we can see. Your calculator, I know you think it's magic how it works, but it has programmed into it a way of, if you tell it the angle, it can figure out what the trig ratios are. Or if you tell it what a trig ratio, it'll tell you the angle. Okay, so I am going to move these a little closer because I want to do a screenshot of this. Let's make this so it's, oops, come on, not that hard. Maybe it is. Oh, I know. Let's go the other one. This is easier here. 3 point. Let's make this a nice triangle that is, how about that? 6, 8, 10. Okay? 6, 8, and 10 there. That's 8 on the bottom. You can't see it. Oh, I moved it up there. That's why. So we got these three ratios here, right? Sine, cosine, tangent. We're going to use those as a kind of a reference here to work with our calculator. So we need to do a clipping of this. Get those out of the way. Again, amazing to watch this, but get all this other stuff out of the way here. Okay, so you find your calculator and you're going to figure out how these functions work. Find the buttons on your calculator while I'm taking a picture of this. So we need to know some things here. Oh, you know what the problem is with this? This is the problem. All right, so we have a triangle that has this angle here that's roughly 36.9 degrees, and you have the three trig ratios there, 0.6. If you go to your calculator, we can figure out how if you tell it one of the things, it'll give you the other one. If you put in an angle, it'll tell you the trig ratios. If you put in the trig ratios, it'll tell you back the angle. There are two different functions here. The first one is, if you give it an angle and you want the sine ratio, you do this. So if you say, I have 36.86, whatever. Let's call it 8699. It's not going to be exact, but you know what? Let's just call it 37. It'll be close enough. If you go on your calculator and put sine of 37 degrees, it's going to give you roughly, what should it give you? 0.6. Okay, test your calculator out, make sure it works. On your calculator, most calculators you go, if your calculator is the kind that writes the words as you punch the buttons, you have to push the sine button first. Remember, I rounded it off, so it's not going to give me exactly it, but it's close, right? 0.6. And if you, of course, push the tangent button, roughly 37 degrees, it gives you roughly 0.8. 0.798 is pretty close to 0.8. And then tangent 37 degrees, it gives me pretty close to 0.75. Okay, so we're going to stick with tangent here. If I put tangent and then I put an angle, it gives me the ratio. You should write down on here somewhere, if you have some space here, that this function takes the angle and it gives you the ratio. Does that make sense? Here's the angle, right? That's the angle each time there. And it gives you the ratio. This is the ratio, right? There's some numbers there. That's to kind of go forwards, I would say. Take the angle and give you the ratio. Now we want to be able to go the other way as well, right? Your calculator can go the other way. If you go back up to this picture here, this is using the tangent button, except not that. right here. This is using the tangent button. If you want to go backwards now, if you want to take the ratio and get this thing back, you got to use the button that says tangent with the little -1 up there, except we're not going to call it tangent with the little -1. We're going to call it tangent inverse or inverse tangent. Inverse tangent is probably a better way to say that than tangent inverse. Inverse tangent. It's the opposite. Just like you could call this button the adding button, and you could call this one the inverse adding button, except we have a word for it. It's called subtracting. Or you could say this is the squaring button, and then we could call this the inverse squaring button, because it undoes that. The inverse tangent button undoes what the tangent button does. They're opposites. So if you go to your calculator and try that, if you do inverse tangent, you probably need to use the shift key or something like that, or the second or whatever key you have. Inverse tangent of, if I put in here 0.75, what angle is it going to give me, or what should it give me, according to this picture here? Should give me that angle, right? 36.86, whatever. If you do tan inverse of the ratio, it'll give you back the angle. All right, so on your, like I have screenshots of it there for you, but you have to figure out how to do it on your own calculator. If you do tan inverse of the ratio, it's going to give you back the angle. These are all ratios.
Excuse the interruption. It is now time for students with law.
This one goes backwards, right? You put tan inverse of the pink thing, which is the ratio, and you get back the angle here, right? These are angles. If you round the number, it's not going to be exact, but this one goes backwards. This one takes the ratio and gives you back, what does it give you? Angle. I would write that down there somehow in your own words so you know that this one works backwards. You need to know how to use those two things, okay?